ಶಬ್ದ. ನಾರದ ಶಬ್ದ.
ಹ್ಮ್
ನಾರದ
ಮೆಡಿಟೇಷನ್
ಶಬ್ದ.
ಎಲ್ಲಿದ್ವಿ? ಮೆಡಿಟೇಷನ್ ಓದ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಹಾರ್ಟ್ ರೀಜನ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ?
ಹಾ,
ಹಾರ್ಟ್ ರೀಜನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾರದ.
ಓ, ನಾರದ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮು ನಾರದನಲ್ಲೇ ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಕೊಂಡಿದ್ವಾ? ನಾರದ
172.
ತಂಬೂರಿ ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ.
ಹೌದು, ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಏನೋ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇತ್ತು, ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮುಂದೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು.
ಏನು?
ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇತ್ತು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್, ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ
ಏನ್
ಮುಗಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು
ಕ್ವೆಶನ್?
ನೀವು ಮುಂದೆ.
ಏನ್ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್?
when a, when a person understands so many things, will his mind not start playing, and will not the hallucination come into picture?
I hope that the person who is listening to all these things doesn't have excessive function of imagination.
Yeah, it happens, but still, ಇವಾಗ ಕೆಲವೊಂದ್ ಸತಿ ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ಬುಕ್ಕಲ್ಲಿ ಓದಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ಓಕೆ ಈ ತರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಈ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಈ ತರ ಅನುಭವ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸಮ್ ಟೈಮ್ಸ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನಿಂಗ್, ಓಕೆ ದಿಸ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಗುಡ್, ಸೊ ಇಫ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಅಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಐ ಮೇ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್ ದಿಸ್ ಆಲ್ ಫೀಚರ್ಸ್. ಸೊ how a person can differentiate uh, when he reads through the literature and he experience, whether the experience is real experience or it just.
ನೀವೇ ಉತ್ತರ ಹೇಳ್ರಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ನೀವೇ ಉತ್ತರ ಹೇಳ್ರಿ. It is
ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ.
quite possible at some point of time, some people might imagine, quite possible. Nothing wrong with it.
But how
Now,
to differentiate?
Iraya, so it is quite possible that people can imagine. So that's the first thing. Especially more so if somebody has excessive imagination, definitely they'll imagine. I have one person in our hospital who takes sittings, and then whatever I tell that person will come and say, I'm experiencing this, I'm experiencing that. It's always happened multiple times. So now I have actually stopped telling few things, because when you see that particular trait or tendency, it's better not to say. Wait for things to unfold itself. Okay. Now suppose if you take away that small percentage of people who might imagine excessively, normal person who has normal imagination, how do you differentiate between a genuine experience versus an artificial experience? What are your points for that? Anything that you can think of?
So apart from literature, his own experience will add some more points. His own feelings, when he is telling, that feelings will have some weightage rather than a mechanical information. He will put his own experience in a different way and present it.
Okay, the way of presenting might give you a clue, right? Because if it is backed by experience, the way that you will actually talk about it will have conviction, will have the backing of the reality, right? And will have that concept of owning that experience. Or this is an experience that I've had. So they own that experience. It's very difficult to dislodge somebody who is actually owning a genuine experience. We cannot dislodge that experience away from them. No matter how many years, once I've had that experience, they'll remember it. It's almost like it is etched in consciousness. It is not etched in diary. It is etched in consciousness only. Okay? Anything else? ಆದಿತ್ಯ ನೀ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಾ? ಹೇಳ್ತೀಯ ಆದಿತ್ಯ?
It's more of a question and less of a definite answer.
ಕ್ವಶನ್
Uh,
ಕ್ವಶನ್ ನೀನ್ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಟು ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಅಂತ, ಮೈನಸ್ ಇಂಟು ಮೈನಸ್ ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಒಂದು.
I mean, we can go off on a tangent on that, but
ಬೇಡ.
it's an interesting point. But anyway, sorry. Would it be an acceptable way to identify these things? But so one experience I had before Charji's birthday was that I was taking sittings, and basically I felt vibrations from one point to another. And then immediately after the sitting, I told the preceptor this is what I observed, and she said exactly. That's exactly the same direct. Would this be a one way of identifying whether it's imagined versus Uh,
When the perceptor said exactly, what did you mean by that?
I
I didn't
said that
get that.
I experienced vibration in one point, and then saw it move to another point, and I
In other
basically,
words, there is correlation between what the perceptor observed to what you felt.
yeah,
That's one part of it, or you can say one kind of evidence.
because there was no sound or colors or
It doesn't
anything.
matter. Doesn't matter. We'll finish this point and then we'll come back to another point that we were talking in the morning. You people need to know about it. Anything else? Somebody wants to add anything?
Are they speaking the same language? The, I'm talking hallucination at the bandaga. Probably I can give an example of AI. If the AI is not congruent in what it is putting it out, we say it is hallucinating. The same way, if the person is actually speaking some sense into whatever they're experiencing, that could say be a genuine experience versus hallucination.
But then that would be a very extreme example of not being congruent. Because generally speaking, many a majority of the people, even if they have a little bit of excessive imagination, they're very congruent. So, of course, that can be taken as a differentiator, but it's not a very common differentiator. Okay. Anything else? ಪ್ರವೀಣ್ಗೆ ಈ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳಿ he thinks that he is nailed. What's the point of studying all these things? And he wanted some truth from studying all these things.
Actually, Uncle, isn't it better to not know these things? Because if you know these things, you might think you're at these places, and then
That's
that
exactly what he's
can.
saying. That's exactly what he's saying. That's like saying that if I read engineering, I will know everything about engineering so that I can do any job at any time in any company. Just because you read engineering. That's exactly what you're telling.
No, 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 no. I'm not saying reading this will help me get there, but knowing about this can possibly bring me down instead.
No, if you know certain things in engineering, you should feel more empowered to do that particular thing in a particular company. Why do you feel disempowered? That's my question to you.
I mean,
You
but
should
you
positively
might.
feel empowered,
No, but the
right?
thing is, you might think that you have achieved certain things, and apparently, for example, I've not experienced this, but in the mind region, you should not know where you are, and if you think you are there, ego takes over.
ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ all what do you say bunkum talking. I gave you a very simple physical example. If you read certain things during your engineering, when you go to job, the fact that you have read about it, would you actually feel empowered or disempowered? If that is the case, why do you think a different analogy applies as far as spirituality is concerned? You are on one hand arguing that it is going to disempower you if you study.
I can think of one major reason. Because in engineering, the subject that is being studied and the thing that is being worked on is not you.
In other words, you are externalizing.
Yeah.
But then here in spirituality, you are internalizing. The subject that is studied is internal. What you are reading is also about internal only. What is the difference? They are both are
But in
external. Here both
engineering,
are
no,
internal.
no,
That's
no.
all.
We can't compare engineering actually because we
Why?
might have done for some purpose. But here we are actually experiencing it. The way we are actually imbibing it, it will not be same as engineering, definitely.
Even when you study engineering, you are exactly doing the same process that you do in spirituality.
But the thing is, when you build a machine, it cannot react to the knowledge.
1 minute, 1 minute. You actually study something that is like Salokhyata. Then you go slightly deeper into it. That is Samipyata. Then you actually start observing that. That is Sarupyata. Then you become that whatever you have studied now becomes part of you. That is Sayujata. What is different? The only difference is you are studying about some internal sciences. There you are studying about some external sciences. That is the only difference. Because the apparatus that you use is still the mind only. How can it be different? Alva, first time when you get the engineering book, you just flip through the book. That is Salokyata. You are becoming familiar with what is there in the book. Then as and when you read through some of these chapters in detail, that is samipyata. You are becoming more nearer to the chapters or the subject at hand. Then as and when you go through the things in detail by the teachings in the college or by your own studying and the experimentations that you do, that is sarupyata. Then once you have done the thorough studying, revised, and the concepts are very clear in your mind, that is sayujata. What is the difference? There is virtually no difference. The only difference I'll tell you, there you are studying the external book and the laboratory. Here you are studying your own heart as the internal book and the conditions that you experience during meditation as the practicality of it. Practical lessons. That is all that you are doing. What is the difference? Now, I want you to take away this notion that spirituality is somehow approached differently as opposed to all other studies. The only difference I'll tell you, spirituality is a far more subtler science than the other science that you study. That is the only difference. But the process is the same across the board, whether you study physical science, whether you study mental science, whether you study spiritual science. The process is still the same. The method of inquiry is still the same. The subtlety might be different, the direction of inquiry might be different. That's all. In spirituality, the direction of inquiry is internal, based on the experience at the level of the heart. But still, we use the mind also. And in mental science or physical science, the direction is external, but still we use the mind. Except for the change in the direction and the subtlety, the mental health study would be a bit more grosser compared to spiritual, and physical study sciences will be even more grosser than mental. That's all it is. So they're all in the same continuum, but the process is still the same. Spiritual is internal, mental and any other science is external. Spiritual is more subtle, mental and any other science is more grosser than that. That's all it is. Okay. Now, coming back to further differences, any person who imagines a particular condition, I said it is artificial. Whenever a condition is actually artificial, there is an effort which is being put, which is involved. Does it make sense? Now, if you put in the effort, how long are you going to put in the effort? At some point of time, either you will feel tired or you will feel bored of it. That thing which is an artificial experience can never last. That's one important differentiating factor. Second, the artificial changes that is imposed because of the imagination of the mind cannot produce everlasting change in you as a person. So one is effort is involved. At some point of time, you will feel tired or bored. Thirdly, at some point of time, you will see that in spite of the effort that is put in, they are not actually seeing changes externally in the subtle direction. Today evening, we were just discussing the same point. When the spiritual conditions do manifest, it actually makes you more subtler than what you are at present. That's the nature of the spiritual experience. It makes you subtler. When a condition is imagined, it actually makes you grosser. So I've given you four important differences. So that thing which is backed by imagination is artificial. This is original. This is used with force. The natural thing is without force. This is temporary because after some period of time either you will feel tired or bored. That is more permanent because there is no effort involved and you don't feel either bored nor tired of it. In fact, this makes your personality more grosser. That real spiritual experience makes your personality more subtler. Since this makes you more grosser, rather than changing as a person, you bombard yourself to be the same person even more stringently. You become more rigid. But that spiritual experience, since it is making you more subtler, you are now amenable to change. You become more flexible. This is what happens. So there is a world of difference between these two. Even if somebody were to make the error of imagining certain conditions at some particular point of time, eventually they will work out as they progress spiritually that this is the mistake that they are doing and they stop it. So there is no risk of that. Something like when you are actually trying to go at a faster pace than what you are normally going in a car, there is obviously a chance that you might meet with an accident. There could be a risk of accident. Yeah. Right. But however, as and when you continue to drive at a faster pace and you become used to that pace, the risk of accidents gradually come down over a period of time. The longer you drive at the same speed, the risk of accident comes down. Likewise, even if somebody were to kind of are going in a particular direction towards a particular place, but without their knowledge, they are going in the opposite direction. At some point of time, they will work out, I'm going in the opposite direction, and then they'll turn and then proceed towards the goal in the right direction. So, just because you read certain things, I've already given you the example of engineering and how the spiritual science is related to mental science and all other physical sciences. Even in that context, what you said is not possible. Even in this context, whatever differences are made you is not possible. Even if in case there is a possibility of error, there is always a possibility that it will be corrected by the person. Because at the end of the day, spiritual journey is going to make you more and more subtle. When it makes you more subtle, it also gives you a chance to correct the errors that you might make. That's all it is. Praveen is not happy with the answer. He has become very serious. I don't agree with
There
you.
is, no. There is in spirituality there is no agreeing or disagreeing. It's
Now
no.
he's come back to diplomatic language. No, it's all right. Nothing wrong with that. But your whatever question you asked is a very legitimate question. Nothing wrong. Now, just because you have read something, there is no need to think that we will remember everything and imagine. I'll give you another example to the contrary. Many people who have never read the book, what I am actually surprised, I'll tell you. Some of the people who have actually come and talked about their experience have actually used the same words for their experience at different points, although they have never touched the book. So the spiritual experiences is so similar. And what I was actually surprised is not that they had the experience. The words that they use to describe the experience is the same as in the book, although they have never read the book.
Remember this you said about that person.
Sorry?
I remember this you said about that person.
Exactly. Quite a few people. Maybe one or two people I might have told you, but I have had quite a few examples over the past many years where people have given exact description of their experience at a particular point in the way that it described in the book, the same words, and they have not never ever studied towards infinity or anything like that.
Isn't that preferable then?
Isn't that?
Preferable.
That is preferable, but as part of your preparation for the perceptive training, knowing certain things is also necessary. Because when Abhyasis were to ask you, you might not see. The point is, not every one of us will pass through all the experiences that are given in the book. For example, for a person who is passing through point one, some people might experience contentment as a main feature. Some people might experience acceptance and flexibility as a main feature. Some persons might experience generosity of heart as a main feature. But each one is passing through. This is like this. Suppose you give exams for 100 marks and there are 20 questions. Suppose you take 10 people who get 50 marks. Now it is wrong to assume that all the 10 people who got 50 marks got the answers or the marks from the same answers by answering the same questions. Out of that 20, then each one might have answered 10 different questions and got 50 marks. Just because the marks is the same doesn't indicate that all of them answered the same question in the same way to get the same marks. That is wrong to assume. Exactly like that in spirituality. In spirituality, at each point, there are multiple possibilities of different conditions happening. Not everyone experiences every condition. But however, just because you have not experienced all the conditions, if an Abhyasi were to ask you as a preceptor, you should know about it. You might not have experienced it, but the Abhyasi is not precluded from experiencing that. Why should the Abhyasi be barred from experiencing it? Because preceptor has not experienced.
But by
Right?
the way, a quick question. I have a friend here who has a lot of questions that are relevant to this topic, and he had expressed an interest to join the call. Would it be okay if I sent the link to him?
Yeah, yeah. Send, no problem. So, did this example give you a clarity?
Yes.
Just because somebody got 50 marks out of 20 questions, each one might have got with a different set of questions and different set of answers. But the total marks is 50. Likewise, when we pass through different chakras, we might experience the passing mark of 50 in every chakra. But the kind of experience that we might have in a particular chakra might be different from one another. But still, we will pass through that chakra and go to the next chakra. This is exactly what happens. Okay, now Gopal Krishna, I want you to tell them about whatever we discussed in the evening and the morning today about the consciousness and about all the questions that you asked me in the evening. How do we know the work is happening in the consciousness? What is there inside?
So when the work is happening on consciousness, we
You
try.
need to be a bit louder.
Is it better now?
Yeah, better, better.
Yes, thank you. So when the work is happening on the consciousness, we experience few things from the below like list. The abbreviation is CMC SLV. So we see, say, I mean, each of those stands for different. I'll list them down. So C stands for color, M stands for movement, C stands for conditions or feelings, uh, S stands for sound, L stands for light, and V for vibration. So when the work is happening on consciousness, we experience these things during our meditation sessions. So
ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ? CMC SLV. This is what you have to remember. SLV ಹೋಟ್ಲು ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಯಶಸ್, you cannot forget it.
ರೆನೋವೇಷನ್ ಬೇರೆ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂಕಲ್.
ಹೌದು. So when I was talking about SLV, I was just thinking of Yashas only. Yashas will definitely remember this. CMC SLV. Or if you are interested in cricket, you can remember MCC SLV. M is moment, Melbourne Cricket Ground, Melbourne Cricket Club, or Marylebone Cricket Club. That's also there in England. So MCC you can remember if you are interested in cricket. So M is for movement, C for color, C for condition. Condition bracket feeling. Then SLV is sound, light, and vibration. And what is God state? In the context of the consciousness, what is the godly state? Explain, Gopal Krishna.
so it is all but these. I mean, that's I mean, anything but this. That's the better way of I
Not
think
anything but this. The higher condition than this. So,
higher
for example, if there is movement in God, there is no movement, stationary. The center is stationary. There is no movement whatsoever. Okay. Then colors. The center is colorless. Consciousness has colors. Center is colorless. Then conditions. The center is conditionless. Yes. Sound. The center is silent. Here there is sound and there is silence. Light. Here there is light, and we go beyond light and beyond darkness. So the center is something beyond light and darkness. And lastly, V. In consciousness, there is vibration. In the center, it's a vibrationless state. So godly state is characterized by these things: stationary, or in other words, momentless, then colorless, conditionless, vibrationless, silent, and beyond light and darkness. This is the condition of the center, or this is the state of the center. ಇರೋ ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ, ಇನ್ನು ಮುಗಿಸೋ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಕೈ ಎತ್ತಿ ನಾನು ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ತರ ಹಿಂಗ್ ಬೇರೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ, ಯಡಿಯೂರಪ್ಪನ ತರ. ಆಯ್ತು, ಹೇಳಿ ಇವಾಗ.
Because when it came to light, you said it's neither lightness nor dark, but for everything else you said not sound but silence. But silence is the darkness of light, right? So it should be neither silent nor not silent, neither moving nor not moving.
In other words, it's described as silence of silence. What I said in the context of light as beyond light, beyond darkness, what is described in the context of sound is it is silence of silence. What do you mean by silence of silence? You are unaware that you are silent.
Okay.
It's like a child being unaware that it is silent. A small baby born today is unaware that it is silent. It is not trying to be silent. It is silent, that's all. And it's also unaware that it is silent. That is silence of silence is godly state, the center.
So it's not one of the dualities of these things.
Beyond both. The simple reason is I said light because a lot of people see light during the course of their journey through consciousness. And many people think and confuse the light itself as a divinity, and they stop their journey there. Throughout their life, they're happy to see the light during the meditation and they're happy with it. And they think that they have achieved the highest. This has been one of the banes. That is why the Nasadiya Sutra, if you study, Aditya, this for your homework, Nasadiya Sutra talks about light, light, beyond darkness. That is where the center is. Okay, if you have the chance to study Nasadiya Sutras, please study that. Interestingly, I came across one study today which talked about what exactly happened at the time of Big Bang within few seconds of the Big Bang. And that's something that I'll share in the youth group. Please have a look at it. It gives you the chemistry correlation of what we are talking about in the central region, what is there in the central region, and then later on in the consciousness. How were the stars born? How did the stars acquire the light that they actually shine with? How did that happen? What was there before that? What happened in the first few seconds or few milliseconds of the Big Bang? How did the temperature actually calm down? Which was the first molecule, first thing, chemical thing to be formed? And then how did the first molecule get formed? And then how did these two combine together to decrease the temperature in order to enable the formation of the stars? All these things are there. Because they have mimicked the condition of the Big Bang, the earliest stage when the universe was born. They have mimicked that condition. They have come conclusively to one particular conclusion based on that particular experiment. So it's a very interesting experiment to correlate what we study here in spirituality with what we are now studying in science. Okay, I think Praveen wants to ask some question. He's up and above. He's come nearer. I don't know whether he suddenly got interested in what we are talking about. Yashas, go ahead.
Uncle, how would you differentiate no moment versus infinite moment that appears very still?
Infinite moment at appearing still is at the 7th point. Infinite moment appearing still is at the 7th point. And 7th point is just above the region of the Maya. And there are a lot of conditions that you pass through. The stationary condition that we are talking about, the center, is after you have actually passed through all the conditions and when you are now primed to enter into the central region, which is a conditionless condition state. There is no condition of even awareness of purity and simplicity. Even that is now gone. Purity and simplicity and humility are the conditions that you experience at the 12th point. When you enter into the central region, even these three things are gone. So in other words, you become so subtle that you don't even want purity, you don't even want simplicity. But in the context of the seventh point, where there is infinite movement, but at the same time it appears still like a top. Remember one thing, when the top, as long as it's spinning very fast, it appears still. But what happens to the top when the speed comes down?
Wobbles.
It wobbly, it becomes wobbly. Exactly the same thing that happens. When you go to the stationary thing, there's no question of wobbliness at the center. When you are passing through the seventh point, there is always a chance of wobbliness. That itself is a condition, an indication that you are passing through a lower stage of the journey rather than the highest state. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಬುಗುರಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಡಿದಿರಲ್ವಾ? ಅದೇನು ನನಗೆ ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಕೂಡ ನನ್ನ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಷ್ಟು ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಹೊಡೆಯೋರು ಬುಗುರಿಗೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ದೇ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಫೀಲ್ ಸೋ ಮಚ್ ಪ್ಲೆಜರ್ ಇನ್ ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ಅವರ್ ಬುಗುರಿ ಫಾಲ್ ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಅವಾಗ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಬುಗುರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡಬೇಕು, ದೆನ್ ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ ಹೊಡಿತೀರಾ. ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇದೆ ನಿಮಗೆ? Do you people remember?
I think we were the Beyblade
Yeah,
generation.
Beyblade, exactly.
I played ಇದು ಅದು ನಾವು ಏನೋ ಬೇರೆ ಅಂತಿದ್ವಿ ನಾವು, ಬೊಗ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ.
ಬುಗುರಿನೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಿರೋದು, ಬುಗುರಿ.
Sorry, we did Beyblade. So
Beyblade.
similar idea.
ಏನ್ ಆಡಿದ್ರಿ?
Beyblade.
Beyblade.
So it's a
Beyblade ಅಂತ.
Japanese top. Yeah.
That is different. That is
Oh, you can pull a cord
that
and
is
you release it.
baby's toys ಅದಲ್ಲ. You come to actual men toys. Don't tell me about baby's toys.
ಹಿಂಗ್ ಟೈ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹಿಂಗೆ
Try
That is
ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೊಡಿಬೇಕು. Actually, if you lose a game ಅಲ್ಲ, you are going to keep your top in the center, and then they will start hitting with their top. You know that sharp metal piece, they'll pierce through that your top with that metal piece. That itself is like fun for them.
we didn't do this.
ಇದು ಮಾಡಿಲ್ವಾ? ಓ, ಸಖತ್ತಾಗಿರ್ತಿತ್ತು ಇದು. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ನೋಡು, ಪ್ರವೀಣ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾನಂತೆ. ಜನರಲಿ ಇಫ್ ಯು ಗೋ ಟು ದ ರೂರಲ್ ಸೈಡ್, ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ ದೇ ವುಡ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಪ್ಲೇಡ್. ನೀವು ಗಿಲ್ಲಿ ದಾಂಡ್ಲು ಆಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಗಿಲ್ಲಿ ದಾಂಡು ಆಡಿದಿರಾ?
Like very less.
ಗಿಲ್ಲಿ ದಾಂಡ್ಲು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ, ದೂರ ಹೊಡಿಬೇಕು. ದಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಗೇಮ್ ದಟ್ ವಿ ಪ್ಲೇಡ್ ವೆನ್ ವಿ ವರ್ ಯಂಗ್.
We
ಬಟ್
used to
ಓನ್ಲಿ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಹರ್ಟ್ ಪೀಪಲ್, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ಹೊಡೆದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ ಯಾರು ಗೊತ್ತು. ಯಾರ ಮೇಲೆ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಬೀಳ್ಬೋದು, ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಹೊಡಿಬೋದು. ಅದು ನಾವು ರಸ್ತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇರೆ ಆಡ್ತಿದ್ದು, ಫೀಲ್ಡಲ್ಲೂ ಅಲ್ಲ.
we used to play ಲಗೋರಿ ಹಂಗೇನೆ, ಹೊಡಿಯೋದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೊಡಿಯೋದು.
ಲಗೋರಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಲಗೋರಿ ಯಾರನ್ನು ಹೊಡಿಬೇಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಮೋರ್ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಟು ಹರ್ಟ್ ದೆಮ್, ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಮೋರ್ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಎಷ್ಟು ಪೆಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವೋ ಅಷ್ಟು ಖುಷಿ. ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟೆ ನೋಡೋನಿಗೆ. ಎನಿವೆ, so when we actually sit for meditation, look into ourselves, one thing that we pick up is the things in the consciousness. What is the other thing that you pick up when you look inside? Gopal Krishna, continue the answer. ಎಲ್ಲೋ ತಂದು ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಕ್ಸಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ ಅವನು.
ಅಲ್ಲ, I am not remembering the exact context. What we see
When you
when
look inside, you see two things, and I've told you. What are the two things that you see?
consciousness and samskaras.
How do you experience the samskaras during meditation?
Thoughts.
Correct. Thoughts. ಆಮೇಲೆ
Turbulence.
restlessness,
Emotions.
jerks, imagining the sceneries, patterns, faces. All these things are nothing but expression of the work that is happening in the samskaras. In general, when you observe anybody who gives a feedback after the session of meditation, they will give you some points in terms of samskaras, the work has occurred, and they'll give you some points in terms of consciousness work that has occurred. That's all. Beyond these two, nobody can give you any other explanation about how the session of meditation was. Either they'll give you something relating to consciousness in terms of CMC SLV, or they'll give you something relating to what has happened to their samskars. That's all they can give you as experience. The other thing that they say, whether the meditation was deep, it was very absorbing, they're all kind of general correlates. It's not very specific. But when it comes to the work on the in the meditation itself, either they actually talk about samskaras or they talk about consciousness. Apart from that, they'll say meditation was deep, my absorption was very intense. I talk about the depth of the meditation or the absorption of the meditation. And last thing that they mention is about awareness, whether they could maintain their awareness during the session of meditation or not. These are the general feedback that people give after the session of meditation. You can split it into these three categories: samskaras, consciousness, and depth of meditation, absorption, and the last one is
Awareness.
awareness. Awareness, depth of meditation, and absorption. It's like ಅಡ. ನನ್ನ ಮನಸ್ಸನ್ನ ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಡ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆ. ಮನಸ್ಸನ್ನ ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಡ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ಪ್ಷನ್ ಇದ್ದೆ, ಡೆಪ್ತ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೆ, ಅವೇರ್ನೆಸ್ ಇದ್ದೆ ಅಂತ ಅಡ ಇಟ್ರೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಮನಸ್ಸನ್ನ ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಡ ಇಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ರೆಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನನ್ನ ಮನಸ್ಸನ್ನ ನಾನು ಅಡ ಇಡಲ್ಲ, ದಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಗುಡ್. ಏನೇನು ತಗೊಂಡೋಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೂ ಅಡೆ ಆಡಿಬಾರ್ದು. ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬಿನ್ ಟೋಲ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ಅವರ್ ಎಲ್ಡರ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಟು ಕೀಪ್ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ಮಾರ್ಟ್ಗೇಜ್. ಸೊ ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಮನಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಅಡ ಇಡಲ್ಲ ಹೃದಯದಲ್ಲಿ. ನೀವೇನಾರು ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಮನಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಹಾಗೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀನಿ, ಗಲಾಟೆ ಮಾಡೋದು. ಸರಿನಾ? ಸೊ 3 ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್. ದಟ್ಸ್ ಹೌ ಯು ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ದ ಸೆಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೆಡಿಟೇಷನ್. ಸರಿನಾ? ಅಡ ಇಡ್ರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಡಾ ಡಾ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರ ನೀವು. ಆಯ್ತು, ಇವತ್ತೇನು ಓದ್ದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನಾಳ್ದನ್ ಟ್ಯೂನ್ ಇನ್ನೂ ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಇದೆ.
ನಾನು ಅವಾಗಿಂದ ಅನ್ಕೊಂತಿದೀನಿ, ನಾನು 7:30 ನೋಡಿದೆ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಸೆಷನ್, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್.
ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ನೀ ಕೇಳಿದ ಒಳ್ಳೇದಾಯ್ತು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಷನ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಇನ್ನೂ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ ನೀನು. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಬಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ವಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲ, ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಫೈಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ವೆರಿ ಯೂಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ಯುವರ್ ಎಂಟೈರ್ ಜರ್ನಿ ಆಫ್ ಲೈಫ್. ವೆನ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಯುವರ್ ಮೆಡಿಟೇಷನ್, when you have to get the ability to develop sensitivity towards describing their session of meditation or their experience of meditation, all these things will come in very handy.
That's true. So this is my practical experience. So when I speak to some people who just are about to start meditation, or they just are curious about spirituality, they want us to answer many deeper questions which they never heard, or they just have some concepts. So they want us to answer. That's good that we need to know all those things. But again, at the same point, they don't know about spirituality anything. Once we say that, they start saying, "Okay, this also happens to us. How can I experience?" So when they ask question about those things very stressfully, I somewhere felt like they might start experiencing because of their mind.
I told you, it's quite possible. Even for new people also, even for experienced people also, that error might occur. But the good thing in spirituality is that even if that error occurs, they will eventually, as they continue the sessions of meditation, they will develop that sensitivity and the error will be corrected. Not to worry too much about it. It is not an error that's going to sustain for a long time. It's like an error which can be auto-corrected by just going through the journey. That's what happens. Doctor friend told me that everything that you experience is hallucination. That's the wrong thing. Hallucination is occurring because of the excessive imagination of the mind. Okay? That is one of the reasons why we tell you that during the meditation, keep your imagination shut. Don't imagine anything. That's why I keep telling you. So one thing not to do during meditation is not to imagine.
My manager also laughed at me when I said I come to meditate and I experience vibration, I experience energy. So he laughed at me. How can you experience energy?
You have to ask them to
Some,
just sit for meditation and then experience it. Then they'll only tell you
yes,
how can you experience. Then when they experience it, then they'll also look for a logical answer to it.
I think he also goes to some matha or somewhere. So from there he learns some concepts and he comes and discuss with me. So he tried to show that he uh, understands more.
It's all right. The point is, the fundamental truth about meditation or spirituality is that how much do we change as a person? Are we able to become the best version of ourselves? In other words, if we are moving towards subtlety, irrespective of what you are doing, something you are doing right. If you are moving towards grossness, where you feel compelled to hold on to what you already know and you are not ready to budge one bit in spite of your experience showing otherwise, then it's more an artificial way of holding on to the samskaras. We just now in the evening we were discussing about the point. I want to be what I am. Many people say this dialogue. I want to be what I am. Now, when they assert that, what they are asserting is the hold on their samskaras. A person who says that in the realm of the consciousness, when you say, I want to be what I am, what you are meaning is that you want to go towards subtler state of consciousness and go beyond consciousness. That is what you are really. But in the realm of samskaras, you want to tighten the hold on the samskaras and hold on to it more tightly than before. That is what happens. So you can say in the context of samskaras, I want to be what I am, or you can also say in the context of the consciousness that I want to be I am. Both of them will actually lead you in a totally different direction. For a person who is materialistically bound, since they don't have any concept of consciousness, all that they mean is that they want to be what they are by holding on to the samskaras that they've got. Now that stops their growth. But when you actually start trying to be what you are in the realm of the consciousness, it actually increases the possibility of a change or evolution. That is what happens. ಸರಿನಾ ಆಯಿತು 7:59 ಸಾಕು ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸೋಣ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಶುರು ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ವಿ ವಿಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾಚ್ ಅಪ್ ವಿತ್ ನಾರ್ದಾ ಅಗೇನ್ tomorrow at 8:15 we will probably play a different tune with Narada. Okay, anyway, thank you very much. Have a nice good night. Okay, bye then.
Thank you.
Thank you.